So just to go over all of the stuff we talked about today in terms of specifically in a vacuum, like not relative to other characters, in a vacuum, Zani slash Phoebe. Zani plus Phoebe versus SRover plus Zani. So yeah. So first off, you know, just important little notes. Obviously, this is looking at meta slash power valuations. Play what you want and whom you enjoy, and pull for your waifus and husbandos as long as you don't overspend. We love pulling and playing for waifu slash husbando in the Gundala. By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, welcome to the Gundala. We love hags here. So Zani, just looking at some general like information that's important. Zani doesn't just get a damage multiplier from Phoebe slash Rover. She requires the Spectro Frazzle to even build up stacks for her ult and actually be functional. Like one of the two, until we get like other Spectro Frazzle supports, you need at least one for her to be baseline functional. And yeah, basically you need 16 to 18, ideally, Spectro Frazzle stacks per ult for you to actually get off 2 full damage Nightfalls consistently. Other DPSs, like, say, Carlotta without Zhe, let's say, like, for some reason, Camellia without Sanhua, those kinds of things, they do lose out on big multipliers like Ultra buffs, which are full total damage multipliers, so, like, that is significant, but they still can function without them, right? Like, you can run Sanhua with basically any other carry in the game, and they still function. You can't do that with Zani, so that, by definition, does make her more restrictive. And, well, really the only exception is Jinxie. Jinxie requires 2 elements to function properly, but, like, that's not as strict a requirement. You just need to run different elemental teammates. But that doesn't necessarily mean that Phoebe is exclusively needed, because, as we just showed in the run, you can use Rover and still perform incredibly well. Man, you don't have to sweat as fucking hard as I did. I just wanted to specifically get a sub 1 minute 10 run. But yeah, so yeah, she does baseline functionality require Spectro Frazzle. This means that her teams are more limited, and she does need at least one more than other DPSs, like, than other DPS that need their ideal teammates. However, this is only from talking baseline ability function. Assuming you have one of these, there is a certain point of DPS loss where it doesn't really matter whether you function or not, right? And SRover doesn't hit that point. It's very clear SRover doesn't hit that point, similarly to how, for the most part, most of the premium most of like the premium main DPSs, if they don't have their premium sub DPS, they still don't hit the point of like you don't do enough damage. It's just more damage makes it easier to clear and makes your gear requirements lower, and your skill requirement especially much lower. I do kind of want to go through tower and just clear like hardest tower with basically every carry except for Zani slash Phoebe with just Sanhua support, like as a sub DPS at some point. I think that would be fun as a showcase. But yeah, so yeah, basically the main issue though, like the other, like when people talk about, oh, you need Phoebe for Zani,
all right,
as we've shown, very much not true, because SRover is literally free, because it's literally you. It's MC. It's the main character. However, the big issue with that is that you only have one Rover in the game. And that means that if you use her for a Zani team, you can't use her for any other teams in Tower of Adversity endgame, or in Wuthering Waves also endgame, right? And any other future endgame modes they put out, it's definitely gonna be multi-team content. In fact, they teased some in the live stream, so I guess it's coming next half of the anniversary patch. Anyway, but yeah, so this can be a problem, because for example, Havoc Rover is a very decent carry, and it specifically is very good in Havoc dual DPS with someone like even like kind of what makes Donjin strong is running a Havoc Rover dual DPS setup with good swap canceling. Also can work with like Camellia and like other sort of units. Like they can make a decent sub DPS replacement for like how Sanhua kind of can, because of their ability to do like big burst damage with certain quick swap rotations. Mostly your double resonant skill, alt resonant skill thing. But also it means that future Arrow Erosion teams will get locked off if you're using SRover exclusively for Zani, because it's likely you'll want Arrow Rover. That's not a hard confirm though, because at least from what I'm seeing, Arrow Rovers Arrow Rover's damage amp isn't that huge, but they are definitely a hard enabler for multi-dot teams, because like they specifically can convert other dots like Spectro Frazzle into arrow erosion. So I'm pretty sure when Xiaogona comes out in like 2 weeks or whatever it is, her best default team until we get an arrow erosion main DPS, which my prediction is that's going to be Kartethia because it just makes sense. It's going to be running her with Phoebe, because she's going to be arrow erosion based, and Phoebe can add a lot of Spectro Frazzle stacks, which then Arrow Rover can convert into more erosion stacks. So I see that to be very likely to be like her best team until we get Kartethia or whoever ends up being like the main DPS, because Xiaogona definitely seems like she's more of like the sub DPS type. But in that case, you're kind of running a dual sub DPS team, but like maybe it works because arrow erosion is strong when buffed up enough. I don't know. Anyway. But yeah. Which is what I talked about right here. It's similar to like if you play Honkai Star Rail, it's kind of similar to how like Fugue and like Harmony Stell works, where like Harmony Stell's hard required for break teams, and if you're using her there, you can't use her for like Remembrance Stell that was launched in 3.x, so you need Fugue if you want to use a Remembrance Stell in like multi-team stuff. But anyway, yeah, I'm not super sold on Rover. Like I mentioned, like a free healer is cool, but the big question, because like Rover doesn't have that much like actual damage amp built in her kit, and like the reason Verena and Storekeeper are strong is not because they heal a lot. Like it's comfy, but it's not because they heal a lot. It's because they have a huge amount of damage amp for the entire team. And Rover doesn't seem like they have much, but this is going to not be the case if the new arrow erosion sets stacks. If it stacks, then suddenly they become a very decent amper. But we'll see. Anyway, let's talk about comparisons between Phoebe and Spectro Rover, since, I mean, we showed that SRover does work, but there's a lot of nuance to it, so let's go over it. So, first off, part of what makes the thing that makes Phoebe incredibly nice is how comfy she makes Zani teams, because she can build all of Zani's needed stacks just by doing her basic rotation. You don't have to do any quick swaps. When Zani's done ulting, you can just switch to Phoebe and then do her basic things, and now Zani's ready for ult, right? Like, and on top of that, she generates way more energy than SRover does, because in that run, if I had not done as many quick swaps as I did, I wouldn't have enough energy. With Zani only having 19% energy regen, I would have needed like a 30% or so if I wanted to skip one of those quick swaps, and more if you skip even more quick swaps. But if you do that, you're also losing confessions, you're also losing stacks. But yeah, so this makes it very, very comfy for Zani to ult off cooldown with max stacks, because ulting off cooldown is a very important point. Like, yes, you can build up more stacks over time while the cooldown's over and while your ult is like ready to go, but you're losing time in that case, and like that time is lost to DPS, which we're talking in like a DPS evaluation sort of sense, right? So like that's an important factor, is her being able to do it as soon as the cooldown is over with as many stacks as you can fit. Important note though, like a lot of people say like, oh, if you have her with Phoebe, you can hit her potential or her damage ceiling. This is not true, because you can do a lot of swap canceling with the team. I showed it off earlier. Maybe I'll make a separate video or something talking about it, or do like a separate recording or something, or even just like find the part of the stream VOD where I went over that in detail. But there is like a lot of swap canceling that you can do with Phoebe that overlaps your DPS more and allows you to build stacks like even faster. Not that that really matters, but it does mean that you can get a lot more of overlapping effects in there, and noticeably increase your DPS ceiling. A big part of it is that with good swap canceling, you can swap to like Shorekeeper specifically more often, and be able to build more Concerto with her faster and get more Concerto going for even more energy regeneration, which allows you to have even lower energy recharge stats. With incredibly clean play, I'm pretty sure you can run 0 ER on Zani with a heavy quick swap optimized playstyle with Phoebe, but I need to test that. But I go decently over my energy when I play that way, so I'm pretty sure it's the case. We'll test it. But yeah, I think, and like that's the thing I think a lot of people don't realize, because she's very much seems like she's good as like a classic hyper carry, right? Like you do the support, so the Verena, Shorekeeper, whatever thing. You do the sub DPS / support thing, so you do the Phoebe thing, and then you go into Zani and you press Alt and you stay on Zani until you've done all the damage and you swap off and then do the whole thing again, like the classic Jian playstyle, right? Or the classic like Zhangli Yao playstyle, that kind of a thing, Camellia playstyle, Carlotta playstyle, just hyper carry. But because you can do so much tech with every single time Zani does Nightfall, you can swap cancel. Every time Zani does a parry, including an alt mode, you can swap cancel and swap back and then swap back for the Nightfall without losing any animation time on Zani. Every time Zani has a big animation, you can swap cancel in even double swap cancel, where like for example you could do Zani does her Nightfall, you swap into Phoebe, start your charge attack, and immediately swap into Shorekeeper, and you can get off like probably like 3 or 4 basics plus a charge attack before swapping back to Zani for like more efficiency. In my opinion, Zani is the 3rd highest skill ceiling DPS in the game because of all that. Because that's not even like a third of the tech you can do with them. Like you can also always like during the cooldown phase swap to Zani for quick swap parries, and that significantly accelerates like her forte skill generation, which allows you to get even bigger damage and even bigger damage amp, and again run even less ER. Now the only 2 characters that I think have a higher skill ceiling, if you really want to maximize them, is definitely Changli and Zhangli Yao. And like separately, Zhangli Yao can do the traditional hyper carry like I mentioned. Changli really struggles with traditional hyper carry unless you own Brant. And even then, she's still just not as good as most other hyper carries. She's not built for it. But if you play Changli correctly, she is, in my opinion, universally the best character to have on your account that isn't Shorekeeper or Verena, because she can be a sub DPS for literally everyone except for Zani. And if you run Sustainless or you run like Healerless, she can also work for Zani. Because if you play Changli optimally, she never has to be on the field for more than 1 second, oftentimes half a second at a time. But it's very high skill ceiling to do that. Zhangli Yao, similarly, if you can play him optimally in the quick swap style that's not hyper carry, especially with Changli, but also other quick swap choices, he never has to be on the field for more than 1.5 seconds, and that's only for one specific animation. He can otherwise be on the field for half a second to 1 second every single time he's on the field. Because of that, you can literally play 2 or even 3 characters on the field all at the same time for like 90% of the fight, and as you can imagine, that's a lot of fucking extra damage. But it's very hard to play. But yeah, anyway, point is, in my opinion, 3rd most difficult after those 2. Like, in terms of hitting the skill ceiling, you can literally just do hyper carry Zani and just beat the shit out of the thing without caring about swapping at all and do fine. She performs really well that way too. She still clears all the content very well with that style. This is just if you're a fucking sweat like me or you just really enjoy like mechanical gameplay, which I clearly do because I just spent like an hour and a half getting that run for SRover Zani. But yeah, other big thing with Phoebe gives so many damage multipliers to Zani. It's mostly from her outro though. The outro gives 10% Spectro Res Shred. It gives 100% Spectro Frazzle Amplify. This is important to know because most of Zani's damage, especially in ult, counts as Spectro Frazzle damage. So assuming no other amp exists, this is literally doubling like the damage of those attacks. But if you have Zani's signature, that gives another 50%, which dilutes it a bit, right? Because you don't get a full 50% damage increase. You get 150 divided by, plus base 100%. So you get 250 divided by 200%. And I actually made an amplification matrix here on the other tab. By the way, this spreadsheet's going to be completely publicly available if you want to look at it, if you want to copy the information, if you want to make use of it for anything, especially like this Spectro Frazzle damage amplification comparison matrix. But yeah, anyway. Like for example, like I was just saying, you have Zani Sig, Sig versus no Sig, but with but with Pheebs outro included. So right here, that would be A, B, D right here, compared to just A plus B, which is no signature, and it's a 36% damage increase, not a 50% damage increase. This is also including the 20% Spectro Frazzle amplify that Zani gets from their enhanced skill for 14 seconds. But yeah, if you are curious about like specific like amounts and damage comparisons, the Matrix is good for that. Just find what letter combination is the thing you want to compare to what other letter combination. But yeah, so yeah, basically you get a fuckload of damage amp from Phoebe because she's like built specifically to be Zani's support. But the big thing about it that really amps up Zani's ability to have a high skill ceiling and do very cool tech is because Phoebe's outro doesn't drop on swap like most sub DPS's outro amplifies. It just stays on until she swaps off of Confession, which you should never do in the Zani team. So it just always up after your first outro, basically. It's similar to how like Shorekeeper and Verena's work. They don't care if you swap, you still get the bonuses. And that also makes that, yeah, it means that like when you play Zani, you have 0 damage loss from quick swapping. And quick swapping is, as I've talked about and as we showed off in the run, quick swapping is a lot of damage increase for Zani and a lot of really cool tech. You can't do stuff like that with, like, for example, a Carlotta Zhuzher team, because Zhuzher's outro buff will drop if Carlotta swaps off after she intros off of it. Same thing with like Gion Mordecai. You can actually do Gion like quick swap stuff and Carlotta quick swap stuff if you don't run those amplify like sub DPSs, but that's a lot of damage loss too, even with that. But you know, with more skillful play, you can bridge that gap. But that's a topic for like a different stream. But yeah, this is what allows Zani to do all the quick swap tech. It allows you to do the quick swaps during her big animations to fit in other actions on other teammates. It allows you to do swap cancel parries, where like you do something with a different teammate, they're about to hit you, you swap to Zani and immediately parry, get a parry off, go back to the other character. Like this is that kind of like swap pack parry is like stuff she can do because she doesn't lose the damage bonus from she doesn't lose the damage amplification and bonus she gets from from Phoebe if she's swapping around. Also, Sig also gives Spectro Frazzle amplification, but like I said, it's in the Matrix if you want to like take a look at specifics. Oh, also, very, very important consideration for Phoebe. She has movement creep, if you didn't know, because Phoebe can do this. Well, check out the movement creep. This matters so much in Renacita, where you can literally fly wherever the fuck you want. It is nice in Jinzo, and like, it's not a huge deal, right? This doesn't really let you like climb things you can't climb, do weird tech or stuff like that. It's just funny and slightly faster than sprinting. Huge. Massive. Alright, and then otherwise, Spectro Rover. Let's talk about Spectro Rover. Also, hi Eric Dye, hi chat. For the most part, I'm not going to be answering chat right now just to kind of get through all of this. But just wanted to make sure, acknowledge you and Eri. But yeah, so Spectro Rover. The big issue with Spectro Rover, two big issues, but the big issue is that she struggles to build enough Spectro Frazzle for Zani. This is because Zani wants to have 16 to 18. She wants to have 16 to 18 stacks before she ults. Although her first ult rotation, you should go lower because it's just wasting time, not ulting as fast as you can with decent stacks. As you saw on the run, we didn't go full stacks with the first ult. We went with just enough to get 2 Nightfalls, even though the second Nightfall does less damage. But yeah, it's because Spectro Rover's ult gives 6 stacks, and it's a 20-second cooldown, so you can only do it once per rotation, realistically. Any longer, and you're just wasting Zani's ult time. And then each of her Forte enhanced skills does 2 extra stacks. But the 2 extra stacks from the Forte skill has a 6-second cooldown. That's why you saw I was constantly swapping back to her in the cooldown phase, building up stacks by every 6 to 8 seconds roughly. I wasn't super clean about it. Like, you can very cleanly do 6 seconds each time. I was getting the SRover skill off so I could build up enough stacks for Zani before her ult was off cooldown. And on top of that, each of Zani's forte skills is worth 2 stacks. I need to swap off Phoebe sounds. I dislike them. But, yeah, every single one of Zani's is also worth 2 stacks, which is 10 blaze, but, like, important point is 2 out of the 16 to 18 stacks you want. And so that's why trying to make sure you get 2 in for Zani during the cooldown period is nice, but you can make do with 1. You just have to remember Zani's forte does give you damage amp, does give Zani damage amp, so you want to make sure that right before you ult, you use her enhanced forte skill. If you just can't build up a second one in time, it's more important to make sure you save that forte skill for popping it right before the amp. However, as you saw in the run, you can pop it, then swap cancel, and then swap cancel the animation of it to SRover, fit in your very last bit of like stack building, then go back to Zani right as it ends and press ult. So you can do swap cancel tech there for both SRover and Phoebe in that case. But yeah, so what that basically means, assuming like the bare minimum you're gonna have happen, right, is Rover does one forte skill, and then Zani does one forte skill, and then you have the ultimate from SRover. This is only 10 stacks. That is not enough, and so that's why you need to fit in more of these for Zani to do good damage, because 10 stacks only lets you do 1 strong Nightfall, and not even get like another special parry in. So that basically means you're like almost halving your damage during ults by only having 10 stacks. Not quite, close to like 60, 65, 70% or something with ballparking, but you lose a lot of damage is the point. So trying to get that 16 to 18 is very important, so you can do 2 full power Nightfalls, because they do an absolute dickload of damage. This means we need a minimum of 6 more per Zani ult to get the 2 full power Nightfalls. 14 works, your second Nightfall is just weaker. 12 works, but can work, but you have to do a parry on the second one for it to work, and again, Nightfall is much weaker. And minimum rotation speed from cooldowns is going to be 18 seconds, because we want to get the 3, if we want to get the 3 SRover stacks, it's 18 seconds, or 12 if you do what like I was doing in the run, but it's much harder to do, where the moment Zani ult ends, you immediately go to SRover and you pop the skill, because then that's technically like a 0 to 1 seconds used for the first skill, and then the next 12 seconds are used for the other 2 skills. That is definitely harder to do, but it is going to be the most efficient way to get those stacks built up, because if you can get 3 SRovers in, then you're good. You might have energy issues like we kind of saw happen in that run. Is very close energy wise, but that is good enough for you to make sure that she stacked up and therefore playing the same functionality wise, not damage amp wise, but functionality wise as you do with Phoebe. If you want her to still perform at that level, again minus the stat difference, then the minimum you need is you need to get those 3 SRover forte skills in, or you need 2 of them, and you need 2 Zani parry, or 2 Zani enhanced skills during that period of time that her ult is like going off cooldown. With good parries and good outros and swap canceling to build up efficient Zani, like anytime you go onto Zani with her intro, she can just do a not even parry, just normal skill into a basic attack 3, which is skips 2, and she has enough for her special skill. So like if you can make sure you're funneling that properly, you can get the 2 forte stacks or the 2 forte skills very easily on Zani. But again, that's a skill, there's a higher level of like skill expression and planning. And similarly, Spectro Rover needs to have, assuming that you do what I was doing with the swap cancels in the run, where you make sure that SRover is swap canceling during Zani's Nightfalls, so that you can get her forte at absolute max 2 full stacks when Zani's ult ends. You still need 1 more stack to get the 3 in if you're doing it that way, which you can do with an intro. Introing into SRover similarly also lets her have a full stack to burn on another enhanced skill. So those are kind of your options. Ideally, basically, you just try to make use of 1 to 2 intros to get some combination going. Zani's gonna do more damage, obviously. It's just harder to do it quickly with Zani, because SRover can literally just press skill and leave. Zani has to, like, actually do some comboing even after an intro to actually get her skill active. But yeah. And if you can fit in, and if the enemy's moving and you can fit in parries and stuff, then you can do it even faster, because you can achieve 5 parries in 5 seconds or even less, and get two of those enhanced skills off in that time period with Zani if they're attacking you, and you can swap into Zani and appropriately parry at the right times. So like it is very doable, but again, a lot of the time, because Zani, like as you saw in the run, because Zani does so much goddamn vibration damage, they're gonna be like not attacking a lot of the time. So you kind of have to, at that point, use the intros and use the SRover rotations to build up enough stacks, because you can't parry for faster generation. It's kind of a fun little, I guess it's a kind of a fun dissonance in her kit, is that she gets so much out of doing parries, but one of the things she gets out of doing parries is knocking them out, so she can't parry anymore. But yeah.
Alright.
Overall, getting the 16 stacks and even 18 stacks, very doable, but you do have to use swap cancel tech. You can't do it without swap cancel tech in enough time. Like, you have to be doing swap cancels to build SRover's forte stacks during the Zani ult, and you have to, and like, you don't have to, but you also ideally want to be able to do, like, while SRover or your Verena or Shorekeeper are doing stuff, being able to swap parry onto Zani when they're attacking you, so she can build up her forte fast as well. So what this basically means, it is incredibly realistic and very possible to play Zani off cooldown with the appropriate amount of stacks with SRover, but it's much higher skill ceiling, skill floor, sorry, it's much higher skill floor than Phoebe, because you have to use swap cancel tech. Like, you have to use it if you want to do it off cooldown. You can do it slower and waste Zani ult time, because you've been like off cooldown for like 5-10 seconds or something. But if you want to do the same thing Phoebe can do without thinking, like, it's so easy on Phoebe, you do need to use swap cancel tech. And so like, you don't have to get anywhere close to the level of swap cancel tech I was doing in the run, because like, with really messy swap cancel tech, I was still clearing like minute 30 with my pretty jacked Zani, but both of my supports doing literally 0 damage. But I specifically wanted to clean up the run to like, thanks, Alarm. I specifically wanted to clean up the run to be a sub 1 minute 10, just because I enjoy playing the tame, and I wanted to kind of show off what cleaner play looks like for it, right? Like, you can get even cleaner. I'm pretty sure you can 1 minute or sub one. You can't 1 minute because just cooldown, ult cooldown issues. Maybe if I do like a super fast, shave like 5+ seconds off of the very first ult and only do like a single strong nightfall, and then make use of like the third ult faster to clear, it might be possible, but you can probably get like a 1 minute clear. With my team, if I really clean it up. But point is, like, so that's not even, like, what I'm doing isn't even hitting the ceiling, but you don't have to play that well. You just need to make sure you're getting enough stacks, basically. And what I was doing was, as you saw, I didn't have enough energy recharge, which you probably want to run high. You also need to run higher energy recharge with this team compared to Phoebe, because Phoebe builds a lot more energy than SRover does. Especially just, like, per skill and everything. So, yeah, that's another thing, is that Phoebe can more easily access lower ER stats for Zani, and you have to play pretty clean to have Zani's ult come up in time with the 19% energy regen I have. But obviously, just run 30%, like, just run 30% or more, and you don't have to play as cleanly as I was playing to make sure Zani has enough ult energy on time, because we scraped it every ult. But yeah, also, like, and then so, like, another thing just to keep in mind is that, like, people talk about, like, but Phoebe also can do more damage, and, like, it's technically true. Phoebe in Confession Mode does more damage than SRover, but it's not too her damage isn't that significant. Like, her damage isn't that significant because Confession Phoebe does, like, literally less than a third or quarter of the damage that, like, actual main carry Phoebe does, because main carry Phoebe has ridiculous amplify modifiers built into her, like, her Absolution main DPS mode, on top of having access to twice as many charge attacks for dumping damage. But yeah. So, the big thing, though, damage-wise, Phoebe provides a lot more damage amp, as we looked at, and the Matrix can show you. Like, she does a lot more damage amp. So that's I'm not like Phoebe is just gonna do a lot more damage, even without like technical play and swap canceling. Phoebe teams just do a lot more damage because she just makes Zani hit so much harder. But as we showed off, you don't really need that damage amp to clear if you can play cleanly enough with SRover. Because like, yes, the current Tower of Adversity center buff is a massive shield buff. It's significantly increasing my Zani's damage, but I still cleared in minute 10 with SRover, and Verena doing literally no damage with a well-built Zani. I'm not saying my Zani isn't good, but again, it's very doable. You can also look at YouTube. There's so many runs with like Zani SRover that clear fast in like the current like top end game. Like, it's doable, but it does require more skill input. It does require you sweating harder compared to Zani Phoebe, where you just basically you can play brain dead and it still does a shitload of damage. Because like by comparison, SRover gives 10% red shred, which like Phoebe already does, and that gives none of the Spectro Frazzle amplify. Again, I haven't calculated it, but it's significant. If I did a really clean swap cancel run of Phoebe against the Dirge or Dragon of Dirge Dragon or whatever, I'm pretty sure like could do a sub 50 or faster pretty easily. Just considering the damage, like I would probably just need the second. I would probably just need like the second part of the second ultra rotation to kill it, because of how much damage amp it is. But yeah. So, with all this yapping, what is the conclusion? So our conclusion is of To Pheeb or not To Pheeb in a vacuum, because I do want to later talk about the comparison of like this versus like how other carries work, right, with their ideals. With their ideal versus not their ideal sub DPSs and support. But in this case, just in a vacuum, Phoebe make Zani do big, funny number because she applies a shitload of buffs versus Rover. However, again, you don't need those buffs. My clear was a very fast clear with like higher level technical play, but I cleared in the minute 10. I had plenty of time left, and there's plenty of like runs on YouTube showing off that SRover teams work fine. Phoebe also makes her Zani way easier to play though, because Zani does so much more damage with her, but also doesn't need tech. Like, you don't need any swap cancel tech to make Zani team work. It's borderline brain dead to play. Like, it's about as easy as Camellia is to play, which is arguably the easiest team to do good damage on, especially because Sunhwa's free. It's like very simple to play traditional hyper carry with Phoebe, and you can't do that with SRover. And just a little note, hyper carry, again, just to repeat, hyper carry is it basically refers to the playstyle where you don't worry about swap canceling. You do one character's thing, main DPS's thing, right? Gion is kind of like the first and classic example of like, you do your Verena Shorekeeper thing, you do your Mortifi thing, and you go to the Gion, you press ult, and you hit things until you're out of ult, and you repeat the process. Similarly with Phoebe, you do your Shorekeeper or Verena things, you do your Phoebe things, you go to Zani and you press ult and you beat the shit out of the thing until you're done with ult, and you go back to Verena Shorekeeper and you do Phoebe things, repeat, right? And she still does an absurdly good amount of damage playing that way. But you can get more damage out if you fit in swap cancels and things like that. But yeah, okay. So otherwise, SRover does require the swap cancel tech. You just literally can't get enough stacks and ult off cooldown, or even close to off cooldown, without doing the swap cancels. You just don't have enough time. Like, the time is tight to make sure that you're ulting around when Zani's ult comes off cooldown with enough stacks. So like, you basically, you have to do it if you want to do it fast. Like, you can do it traditional carry style and like swap from your Verena / Shorekeeper to your SRover to your Zani, but then you have to swap back to SRover again, and then probably Zani again, and even SRover again if you do hyper carry style, at which point you're going like well over 10 seconds over the ult cooldown, which just like around 1/2 to 1/3 your damage, your DPS, right? Because if you're adding 50% time to each of your ult rotations and it's the vast majority of your damage, like you're doing 2/3 of damage you could be doing, and that's a huge damage loss. So so like the swap cancel tech is kind of necessary for the team to function properly. So that's kind of like the big appeal with Phoebe at the end of the day. Pulling Pheebs means that you have much lower skill ceiling, which means, and much more damage, which means you don't have to play as well, and you can also have worse gear and still clear fine with Zani. SRover wants a combination of good gear and good play to really function at a more competitive level. Also, there's only one Rover. If you use SRover, you can't use Rover or Havoc Rover for other teams, in case you like running like Havoc Rover or Dungeon dual DPS, or you want to have access to Arrow Rover for future Arrow Erosion teams like Chalcona, and probably for now Phoebe as well, because you can do stat conversion with Arrow Rover. And like this isn't a big deal if you're just not doing endgame content, because you can just use use whatever teams you want to. But if you're doing endgame content, which is like the context we're talking about in here, if you're using endgame content, you need 2 to 3 teams. And you can only use Rover on one of them. And so depending on your account and what characters you have, that's an important consideration you have to make. Like, if one of your main teams is Havoc Rover dual DPS kind of setup or something, or even like Hyper Carry Havoc Rover, you can't use her as a support for Zani. And if you really want to like go in on the Arrow Erosion teams in the future, you can't use her as a support. In that case, you need Phoebe to make Zani work. You just do. So yeah, that's just another important consideration. Everyone's account's different. I can't tell you generally, oh, do this or do this, or you should pull this or pull this, because everyone's account quality is different. If you don't have very good gear, Phoebe's just going to amplify damage enough to make it easier to clear. If you are willing to put in more effort and effort to practice, I guess, like, if you're willing to put in more effort to practice and play at a higher skill level and really learn how to play, because it took, like, I've basically never played this team before, so I spent like an hour and a half practicing it on stream, and then we finally hit the sub 110 run I wanted to get. So, like, it does take practice to get used to it, unless you're just like a fucking god gamer who picks up rotation super fast. I'm not. I'm not, but I'm very good at figuring out ways to optimize and like figuring out scripts and figuring out like what I should be doing in what situation. I just take some time to actually do it with my fingers when things are happening. But yeah, like at the end of the day, we covered all the points. So if you think you want to Pheeb or not to Pheeb because you own Zani, them's the choices. You'll always perform best with Zani, but you don't have to. Zani will always perform best with Phoebe, but you don't have to use Pheebs. You can use SRover. It's just there are many considerations with using SRover. It's a very nuanced subject, which is why I have just spent a really long amount of time explaining it. Okay, cool. Well, since I definitely am planning on turning this into like a clipped VOD to put on the YouTube channel, hi YouTube frogs, and not current YouTube chats because they're just sitting here listening, I guess. But thank you for listening. I hope that answered incredibly in-depth and probably in an overly nuanced way your questions about whether you should get Phoebe or not for Zani. This is doable. Getting closer and closer.
All yours.
Luminous energy. The fruit of evolution.
Swift and
Perfect,
resolute.
perfect.
The end has
That was
come.
perfect.
No hesitation. I don't have all day.
You get parry.
Come at me. Reduce
Clean.
Waste of time. No con the sound.
Bask in the sunlight. The fruit of evolution.
Oh my god, why didn't I jump? Fuck.
Moment of resonance. Break. All of you at once.
Fuck it, fuck it, fuck it, fuck it. It's fine. We got pull.
Leave it to me. Listen up.
Tiny bit of a throw there, but I think we're fine.
The fruit of evolution.
Give me your worst.
I sense the end has come. One.
Shut
The sound.
Oh,
Life
this
in
is it.
everything.
This is it. This is it. No. Why? Why?
No contest.
It's okay. We got the earlier one. It'll still be good for this one.
Swift and resolute.
Yo, let's go. Oh, what was that? Like 1:07 or something? 1:07:54 seconds. Let's go. That's the run. That's the run. What the fuck is the timestamp right now? Okay, cool. And now I think it's important for us to do the whole thing where like we show off characters, right? Like take a look-see-loo at that. Like I said, my Zani's fucking jacked. I have built my Zani quite a bit, and I still don't really like my Capitanius, but it's still good. It's still okay. Because, like, yeah, she's got some pretty jacked. Like, she's the second most jacked next to my Changli. But to compensate, SRover is super cope. We were using a level 1 fucking slight energy sword. Yeah, her gear is not good. She was contributing literally no damage. Yeah, literally no damage. Fuck, did I forget to show Zani sequences? There you go, Zani sequences. And yeah, no, like, she has very high crit damage, but it's not really that relevant. And then as for Verena, Verena was running a level 40 variation, which definitely hurt her. I had to play cleanly, or she couldn't ult in time, because I was lacking the energy regen from using my higher level one. But, you know, whatever, it just forced me to play more clean. Even with 200% ER, like, SRover does not build a lot of energy, so it is really tight to get the energy. Like you saw, we were just barely scraping it. Also, yes, I built my Verena for damage. She doesn't do any. It's just funny to me to run that, to like build her for damage instead of healing. I don't know, it makes me laugh. She doesn't do damage. You can watch the fucking runs, like the run again, and see how little damage she's doing, but it just is funny to me. And yeah, I don't have C2 either. I could C1, but I think it's funny just to not C1.